Hey guys, it's Father Matthias and Kevin here. We want to thank you so much for all of the letters and emails and calls that you had about the confirmation program, expressing your concerns and questions, and we want to answer them right now. But before we do that, I want everyone to know who Kevin Bailey is, our Director of Youth Discipleship. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have been in youth ministry. I'm beginning my 10th year of youth ministry this year. And, I am not a product of youth ministry. I actually avoided my youth group growing up. I thought it was weird and terrible. And had my encounter with Jesus at a youth conference and decided to pursue this course in youth ministry. And over the course of the last 9 years, I have studied the trends in society and the church at large, watched people explore new strategies for making disciples, and helped in the formation of and preparation of over 1,000 kids for the sacrament of confirmation. And over that time and being able to test various things is what helped shape some of the strategies we're doing here, as well as conversations with the diocese and where she's going into large, and Father Matthias and what we're trying to do specifically at this parish. And one of the things that's come out for me in a big way about this is how other people haven't been reading those same things and thinking about those same things and talking about those same things. So when something like this happens, it caught them way off guard. And that's on me.
Absolutely, and it is all on Kevin. And the thing that we really, really want to say is that, we have made a mistake regarding the timing of this, right? So this is a transition year before we go into a new program that's going to better engage the youth in being disciples. And because this transition year is tough, and because, as many of you expressed, it was kind of late notice, what we're going to do is we're going to offer an additional option that can ameliorate some of that concern. And we'll explain that at the end. But certainly, we did not intend in any way for there to be hurt feelings or any super big inconvenience. But we know that this 1 year is a challenge, because it's you got kids in 8th grade who haven't even started this process yet. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we're going to adjust.
Yeah, and that was a miscue on my part. In some respects, this is a project I've been working on for multiple years, and at the very least the 2 years that I've been here, and really hard driving the past 8 months. Something we were trying to get rolled out and prepared in April or May, and just couldn't get all the pieces together. And so we got to August, we got things set. We're like, this is it. We're ready, and we just blasted ahead, and that caused some confusion and frustration. And so we're going to seek to remedy that, as Father said at the end.
One of the things that's important for us to understand is that why is it that we need to change? Why the new paradigm shift, especially when it comes to confirmation preparation? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so traditionally confirmation preparation across the country has been done in 8th grade. And there's a lot of discussion on why 8th grade is chosen. But the simple fact is it was as the age chosen for confirmation. And people are used to that, and people are familiar with that. But when we look at the culture today, it's simply not meeting the needs of our youth. 5 out of every 6 kids who are confirmed in the church today will no longer be practicing the faith in 10 years. So what that tells us is that confirmation prep, what we're doing in our schools, in our religious ed, in our formation, is not working. The church has not done a good job. Part of the problem is these kids are having conversations and struggles at an earlier age. When you're having thoughts about who God is, why he's good, is God real, is Jesus really God, at 10 and 11, if the church isn't addressing those concerns until 13 or 14, we're missing a boat. And many individuals are making decisions without proper formation. And so what we wanted to do is start the process of opening up and being prepared to answer people's questions when they were answering them. And that's a hard thing to do. And when we look at society as a whole and the downward trends of people staying in the church and being involved after confirmation, they're not great. And so we have to rethink our strategies, right? The church is no longer floating downstream, but she's fighting against the current, back upstream, trying to impact the culture. And this is not something that's just happening here at St. Patrick's. This is something that's happening across the diocese, as the diocese has looked what it means to be a disciple and how parishes will live that out, and what is working well in faith formation and what isn't. These conversations are happening and looking for new solutions, new methods, as John Paul II called us to seek.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why change is necessary is because what's at stake is very serious. I mean, when kids aren't even engaging in their faith, and they're being confirmed when they don't even believe in Jesus, they don't even have faith, they don't have a personal relationship, it's just something that their parents are giving to them, right? They don't take ownership. That's why 5 out of 6 kids, after 10 years of their confirmation, are no longer practicing the faith, because they never actually took the faith as their own. And so this is a very serious problem that we take very seriously as a parish. We want our kids to come alive. We want our kids to know who they are in God, that they're loved, to live out that mercy and that compassion and really the joy of the gospel in the world. And so we really take that seriously. And one of the questions that came up with one of the parents is, why isn't the school classroom enough? Why is not catechesis enough? I mean, we send our kids to the school. Why isn't that enough? Well, my initial response to that is that we're in the classroom, we're studying, we're focusing on the mind. What are the truths of the faith? But the truths of the faith are meaningless for someone who doesn't care, for someone who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. I mean, I can learn, I can have a PhD in theology, but if I don't actually know him personally, and I don't have an experience of him and a knowledge of him, I don't have a community in which I can grow and be challenged, that knowledge completely goes out the window. And that's one of the problems that we're seeing in the classroom. And we have excellent religion teachers at our school. So this is for the school family. We have excellent religion teachers, but they are the first ones to tell you that some of these students just simply do not care about what they're being taught. And so when these students are presented for confirmation, I know as a pastor that they're not ready. And yet, because it's kind of a graduation sacrament in 8th grade, I'm being asked to say they are ready, which is not necessarily true.
It's one of the hardest parts of the year each year is actually the confirmation mass, and hearing the bishop say, are these kids ready for confirmation? And knowing full well, having spent time with many of them and talked to them about their struggles and their questions and their confusions, saying no, I know that there are kids in this room that aren't ready right now, and there's no space to care for them, to invite them, to say, hey, maybe take a little bit longer. Hey, take another year. Let's go sit and ask these questions. Let's journey together. And that's where the beauty and the transformation of the church comes. And the history of discipleship in the church is one of accompaniment. It's not going to class and learning something, but it's walking alongside other disciples and other witnesses in the faith. And one of the studies, there's a group called Sticky Faith that watches youth culture and helping people stay faithful to Jesus throughout their whole life. And one of the statistics that they share is that it takes 4 adults who are passionate about their faith, who are engaged in the life of discipleship, in the life of a teen, to help them stay faithful for the rest of their life. And those are 4 adults outside of their parents, right? So, if they're just seeing their parents and then going to a religion class, they're not seeing people live out that discipleship on a daily basis. And that's one of the reasons why we adapted things, is to help create an opportunity to go for the heart and to have them to break down some of the walls that they've built up towards Christ, towards Jesus, towards the church, and say, no, there's more here. Furthermore, another recent statistic that we've seen is that 92% of youth no longer look to the Bible or the church when they're making decisions about their daily decisions. They don't impact their daily decision making, right? And these are kids that are, again, getting tons of head knowledge, right? But because it's not in their heart, when they have to make a choice of what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. And a lot of those choices come up in high school, and some of them are really hard choices. They're not looking to us for answers. They're not looking to the Bible for answers. They're not looking to God for answers. They're closing their eyes and saying, what feels right? Right? And when you have society bombarding them of, this is how you should feel, this is what's acceptable. If we haven't prepared a space for them to trust the church, to trust us leaders, and to be able to come and talk to us about it when they have someone who comes out and says, hey, I have same-sex attraction. Or when they have a classmate comes out and say, hey, I need you to call me as she, her, instead of he, him anymore. Then,
or hey, I feel so much pressure from my parents to be perfect. I don't know what to do. I can't talk to them about that. I mean, there are real serious issues that kids are sharing with us that we really want to help them process so that they can be who God created them to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things that we really love about this program, and again, we have 2 members of the diocesan staff helping us with this, is that it's open confirmation. What that means is that we're allowing people or their kids to come into the process and be confirmed when they're ready. So you can get confirmed at the end of your 8th grade, or not end, but in your 8th grade year, your 9th grade year, your 10th grade year, and even your 11th grade year if you're not ready. So if kids are coming and they're just simply not ready, we're not going to force them to receive the sacrament. And there's something, I think, as modern Americans, we really bristle against someone forcing us to do this, to do anything, right?
Yeah.
And like when it comes to our relationship with God, we can't accidentally have a saving relationship with God. We can't accidentally fall in love with him. We can't accidentally follow his commandments. It has to be intentional. And what we're trying here to do, because at confirmation kids take responsibility for their faith, we're trying to help them take responsibility for their faith. We're trying to help them have a relationship in which their faith makes sense, in which their desire to be disciples makes sense. And so this paradigm shift has been something that those who've studied evangelization have seen has been needed to happen for the last 15, 20 years at least. And the church has been very slow on this. But that's where we come in. We're saying, no, we want to help best prepare your kids to be disciples in today's world.
Yeah, and that starts now, right? And a lot of you may be saying, well, my kids keep going to church. Previous kids or other families I know, they kept going to church through high school. And that may be true. And it's that leap from high school to college when they have to go out on their own for the first time that many of them find that they're not equipped to do that. They don't know how to maintain a life of discipleship. They don't know where to find resources. They don't know who to go to for questions and for answers. And so what we're trying to do is set them up now to say like, oh, even when you go to college, you have people that you can lean back on, that you can call on, right? You have a wealth of knowledge and experience to say, no, I know that God is real and I know that he moves. And I know that even when I can't see it, he's moving. And even when I can't feel it, he's moving because of what's been taught to me throughout these years. And so then when they go into college, they're not going there and falling away, but they're going there and they're transforming that environment.
And we recognize that this is not going to be a tradition. We're not going to following the tradition that we had before. And we know that's to be true, and we know that there's a lot of like beauty in the tradition. But at the same time, when confirmation is seen as kind of like a graduation, then what happens is as kids go into high school where they experience so many more challenges than they do in middle school, they don't have a rooting in the faith. And a lot of times as kids, and you know this as a youth minister, as after they get confirmed, they disappear. Mm-hmm. They're not engaging, they're not growing in their faith, they're not as much at Mass. And I can say that as a pastor for the past 4 years, many kids who are confirmed I never see at Mass. And so, and I know that that can be a challenging even for families, how to get our kids to come to Mass. But we believe when kids have a living and real relationship with Jesus, it makes a huge difference. And that's the main reason why we're making these changes. So what does that mean for those who are in 8th grade this year? We're going to give the 8th grade families an additional option. Kevin, tell us a little bit about what is it that we're going to be offering?
Yeah. So because of the shortness of the timing and how quickly this came, we talked to the diocese about the situation. And so for individuals who are like, you know what, what you're doing is nice, but we really want the sacrament this year, you'll be able to actually go up to Lansing to go to the cathedral and be confirmed by the bishop up there. We'll still require that you participate in as much of our program as necessary. So you still have to be engaged in the sacramental life of the church. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been talking to kids who are preparing for sacraments and they say, oh yeah, we don't go to church. And I'm like, I don't understand. So we got to be going to church. You still have to have a retreat. And there will be diocesan retreats available over the course of the year that we will send out information on so that you can attend your retreat. You still have to attend the 6 formation sessions that we're going to do in the spring that just detail deeper about what confirmation is and facilitate a conversation between the parent or the sponsor. So that slash in there is if the sponsor lives nearby and is able to make it, it would be amazing for this youth to start having conversations with their sponsor who is meant to be one of those 4 adults in their life. If a sponsor lives out of state, we totally understand we're not going to ask them to fly in 6 times. That's when the parent can come in and sit and just have more intentional conversations about the faith and what it means to be a disciple. You're still going to have to fill out the paperwork and choose a saint and a sponsor, and you're still going to have to attend the liturgy. It'll just be in Lansing and not here in Brighton. We're not going to require that you go through Alpha or that you attend 75% of the ministry events on Sunday nights, but I will encourage you to start coming to them. One of the biggest pieces we've seen in the life of disciple is that, and with Generation Z in particular, is they're looking for a place of belonging, right? And so many of them don't find belonging in the church. And because they don't find belonging there, they don't really care what we believe or how we behave. And so if we want them to believe what we're teaching and we want them to change the way we live their lives, we first have to make a space of belonging, right? And so that's what Sunday nights is all about, is creating a place that feels like home, that's a home away from home, that's a safe place to come and ask hard questions and wrestle with the situations of life, right? And one of the challenges that comes up in the 8th grade classroom is they're actually dissociating themselves from the school at that point. They're saying, no, I no longer belong here because I'm going to this high school next year. And when their minds blur the lines between that and the parish and the relationship and the dynamic there. So while you're not required to do the second piece of the process, I would encourage you to say, let's go see what this is about and let's get our kids there, because there might be stuff that we're missing.
And again, this is for 8th grade families this year who would like to take advantage of this additional option. One of the good things about this program is that because it's open confirmation, I mean 7th grade families can start this year and be confirmed in their 8th grade year. But some families may say, hey, look, that's not as convenient for us. We don't think our kid is ready, and they can delay it. So one of the things to keep in mind is that we really, really want kids to be ready, and we want kids to engage in this. So if 8th grade families want to take advantage of this additional option, we will send an email with all the details, and we'll repeat a lot of this stuff today so that you know exactly what we're saying. The good news is, again, all of this change is for the sake of your kids. It's all for them to come alive in God. And we know that this is compelling, this works, the fruit has been tremendous, but we also know that you have to make a choice. There's a whole set of things that in the world that draw our attention, that draw our time. A lot more sports are happening today, a lot more extracurricular things are happening, and confirmation is one of those things. We know that everyone's in their own place with regard to their own faith, and we're asking you to make an investment in your kids so that we can see them not only worshiping God at Mass, but making a difference in the world, being guided by the Holy Spirit to bring Christ into the world. We know that this is a lot to ask, but we're convinced that this is the way forward to help your kids stay practicing their faith so that in that saving relationship with God, they will go to heaven and be with God forever.
Mm-hmm. The last invitation I want to extend to the parents is that for many of you, when I received your emails, was reading through them, many of them were deeply personal, talking about your family and your unique situations and your issues and your frustrations. And I hear those, and I recognize everything you're saying. And one of the big invitations that we're making you today is to take a step back and look at the church at large and the picture at large. Yes, you may be doing this and this and this and this for your family, and you may be very confident that your kids are going to stay faithful, and you've had older kids that have stayed faithful. But what we want to remind you of is that, again, 5 out of 6 kids confirmed in the church today are no longer practicing in 10 years. So for the 60 kids in the school, that's 10 still practicing in 10 years, right? And if your kid's going to be one of those 10, that's so great. But Jesus, even when he had the 99, still went after the one, right? And we don't have one to go after. We have 50 to go after. And that's why we're making those changes.
Yeah, so again, if you have any more questions, please email Kevin. And we thank you so much for paying attention to this somewhat long video, but it's very important that you understand the context of this, and perhaps, again, we should have maybe done a video before, so we would kind of avoid some of these misunderstandings. Again, we're not beyond reproach. We're offering an additional option for those who are currently in the 8th grade year, and we're excited to see what God does for your kids. So God bless you.